That's okay.
But it got so bad that we couldn't keep track of boxes. So I saw it.
Everything started working.
He also might not ask, but I'm gonna ask. Yeah.
But this is like this. Okay. Get another pen will be a bit different. The one that you're trying is going to do it. So typically you will give you more feedback than this one you just tried. But does it mean that all of them will be the same? No.
So you can't ever guarantee like
Some people say, well, there's a super small difference. I know. But people that say huge difference, they don't look so good. It's like what? Circle answer, but comparable every pen that uses your volume, so any pen that sometimes you can just screw in, screw out, sometimes you have to that's the watermelon. What do you think? Yes.
now to the haul portion from the Detroit Pen Show. So I have some inks from Colorverse. These are their mini inks, which are adorable 5 ml glass bottles. And inside, I'll show you the size. Very, very little, 5 milliliters. Inside you get the 5 ml bottle, and then a little, each one comes with this little pipette, which is perfect. And they were, you can buy them individually, but they also have these 3 piece sets, and you get to pick which 3 inks you would like. And then it's more as a little bundle, and the prices are slightly discounted. So unplanned, but once they put this in this little package for me, I noticed, I've obviously selected some beautiful autumn colors. So I'm going to swatch with those with you a little bit later. They'll be awesome. I also got my first bottle of rubber Oster ink. I did their, I think it was called like Swatch and Play in New York at the Yoseka Stationery Fest, and I got to try a whole bunch of their inks. And so, which was great because it helped me determine which ink to buy now that there was an assortment in front of me. So I went with Gold Antigua. We'll swatch this as well. It's absolutely beautiful. I've actually gone through quite a bit already, sharing some in samples and inking up some pens. And then I did get one fountain pen. So this is from Wancher, and it's a 4-faceted wood pen. This is sandalwood, and you can see it tapers to the middle. The facets are gorgeous, and this is a solid wood pen, so it's sandalwood, and then a brass section. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about this. It's a cartridge converter, came with the converter. We've got brass fittings, so threads that are, I'm assuming it's brass, it's metal anyway. So we have metal on metal, which is good. There's a nice O-ring, so it fits very smoothly and then tightens very comfortably and securely. I like this ring that you can see when it's capped. And then the section. Now this is the first pen I've gotten with a metal section. It's thinner, so that's a little bit unideal for me. And I actually hold my pen quite back, and I've noticed it's almost working, you know, kind of like one of those triangular grip sections for me, because sometimes I hold it further back like this. Now let's talk about the nib for any of you that already caught a glimpse of what I've done. Here you'll see that it came with this small, I think it's a number 5 Wancher stainless steel nib that's gold plated. So I got this in extra fine, and it writes nicely. But when I got home, my wheels started turning. Look at that beautiful sandalwood too. You know me and wood. I've been wanting a wood pen for a long time. When I got home, my wheels started turning, and I have this vintage, I'm pretty sure it's number 5 size gold nib from Omas. So while I was at the show, I was thinking about this. So conveniently, my neighbor at the table at the show as a vendor was Kirk Spear from Pen Realm. So I asked him, I was like, hey Kirk, do you think this threads out or pulls out? And he took a look at it, and he was like, it pulls out. So I put on the courage to do that when I got home using my elastic or rubber gripper, and it came out nicely. I think Kirk kind of loosened it a little bit for me. So the only downside, of course, to this is the Omas nib, which was from a 505S, if my memory serves correctly, which is a fine, you can see that there, was originally partnered with a ebonite feed with a, it was a piston fill pen. So here this Omas is partnered with a plastic feed, which of course won't work as well. And the Omas shape of the nib, as you can see, is a little bit more curved than this flatter Wancher. So the fitting isn't perfect, but it works and it's kind of fun for what it is. But I love this pen, and I love that it's a magnetic capping. I love magnets, and it fits very comfortably. Can't really see, I haven't had any issues with it drying out, but I think it's all steel in there. So yeah, that's the beauty. So let's go ahead and do a writing sample with this pen, even though it's not the original nib. Maybe I have a writing sample of the original nib. Then we're going to swatch these 3 inks that I got from Colorverse. So Kinko Tree, String, and Brain, with this one has glitter in it, or shimmer. And we're going to swatch this Robert Oster Gold Antigua. And also, the fun doesn't end there because I have some bonus swatching to do. We're going to swatch together because Lexi from Lip Gloss and Lattes gave me a whole bunch of ink swatches to try out. So I swatched them at the show. Let me show you a preview. I swatched these at the show, and then I kept some of them. So lots of interesting ones here to take a look at. And I'll be swatching some of the ones that I kept that were favorites specifically for like this autumn time of year. So we're going to swatch the Monarch Cardana and Colorverse Lucky Star. Here's a couple more. A lot of these I really like. We're going to swatch Birmingham Pen Company Waterfall Dusk and Robert Oster Melon Tea. Here's a little preview, Gold Antigua. Oh, I also got Brilliant Brown from somebody else. I'm looking forward to swatching that with you guys. And then here's the String, Kinko Tree, and Brain. So get to see them, but if you're into watching the swatching, hang out and I'll do that with you. All right, here is a writing sample with the original Wancher extra fine steel nib on my Wancher pen. All right, so here is a writing sample with the Wancher pen with the Omos nib. So you can see that it kind of had a delayed start there. And again, that's because there's going to be a little ink starvation at the beginning because the nib and feed aren't perfectly paired together. So I'm going to look into, see there again, some options for this situation, but either way, it's kind of just fun to do these. And now I've made my first, well, maybe not my first, but my Franken pen for this time of year. It kind of makes sense. And then we have in here, we have Colorverse, Kinko Tree is what I have this inked up with. And has a nice amount of bounce on that Omos fine. So there we have it. It's a lovely pen. So I've been putting it on my pen rests. These are my jewel compact pen rests, by the way. I make these by hand. This one happens to be made of an exotic wood, black heart. And if you haven't checked out my web store yet, where I make various wood desk accessories, here's one made of purple heart. Do check it out. We're on to the ink swatching portion of the video now. Here's another one of my pieces. This is a magnetic modular set, and I use this for ink sampling all the time. So on one end we have a spot for 7 standard ink sample vials, the 5 ml ones. This is a magnetic set, so you can detach. This is the pen tray, so you can fit your pen rest, perhaps a brush on there, and use them separately or together because they're magnetic. And this one's made of walnut. So I am totally ready to do the ink swatching with you guys. Let's have fun doing this. Okay, so first off, I thought we would start with Robert Oster Melon tea. And I'm going to be using, this is a Hanabi glass, glass dip nib. And I have a watercolor brush, number 2. And I'll be using one of these little eyedropper pipettes. And I often use my ink swatching stone, so I'll be using that today as well. So let's go ahead and swatch this Robert Oster Melon tea. I really like these earthy colors so very much. And get a little drop of this. Sometimes you get a sample with lots of ink in it. Sometimes it's just 2 mils. It really depends. Because sometimes the inks have already been swatched before they get to you and they're being passed along. So I feel like for myself, if I'm just interested in experiencing and swatching inks, even a 1/2 mil is enough to do a swatch, determine if I like an ink enough or not. But if I want to be able to experience the ink, then usually, 2 mils are really nice so that you can get a fill on a fountain pen in addition to swatching it, see how it writes, and experience it. So there we go. And like I said, I will be showing you these dry because that's important. A note on ink swatching. I think it's important to me to get the true color values of an ink, that you get these high and low areas of concentration on the ink, because that will vary. Do you have a fine or an extra fine nib or a dry writer? Then you're going to be seeing this color. If you have a broad or a wet writer, you're going to be seeing this darker color. And so it really varies. And if you want to get a true read on a color, that's absolutely necessary, in my opinion. I'll give you an example. I just swatched these. This is ginger chicken. And again, here's the importance. Here is a swatch I did without being sure that I got the high and low values. These are both dry. If I see a swatch like this, I go, oh, that's a very dark reddish brown color. And that's what I'm going to expect. And I didn't shake the bottle. Same ink. I shook the bottle. Well, there's the shimmer, and here's the low value and the high value. So that's what you're missing if that matters to you, which it matters to me, on the color values and how that works with showing a true representation of these inks. So that's kind of aside, but there it is. Okay, next we have Brilliant Brown by Pelikan. I'm also using these coloring swatch cards that I stamp ahead of time, and I pulled out my vial stabilizer so that I can grab these one at a time and have some stability. So, Brilliant Brown I've heard a lot about. It's definitely a favorite brown for a lot of people. There's been a lot of buzz about it lately. So it's definitely got my attention as an ink I wanted to try. So when I came across someone who had just bought a bottle, I definitely said, hey, friend, do you mind sharing that with me? And this is a 4001, so Pelikan. Brilliant Brown. I think the reason that this ink color has gotten so much attention in the community is perhaps that it's a unique brown. And this would also be an interesting one to compare to SBRE Brown, the Ackerman ink. I have not gotten a sample of that myself. That's another one that would be very interesting, especially to compare, because these are both browns that are leaning on the very warm red side. And that's possibly why it's kind of gotten so much attention within the community, because it's rather unique in that way. The last brown ink that I purchased was the Wonder Pens exclusive with Ferris wheel press, writing desk. And that's more of a true neutral brown that doesn't lean so much on the warm side. Maybe a little more earthy. So it'll be interesting to see these dry. Now I'm going to switch gears into my Colorverse inks that I got in these small bottles, because the colors are in the same vein as the inks that I just swatched. So I think it would be a good time to do those. And Colorverse is an ink brand that I haven't tried a bunch of until more recently, like now. And so far, I'm very fond of them. I think they have a nice collection of color offerings, and the inks that I have tried so far inked up in a pen have written very well. Well-behaved inks. So I'm looking forward to continuing to use these for the autumn, and also trying new ones. If you have some favorite Colorverse inks, share them in the comments for me so I can keep an eye out for them the next time some of their inks are available to me. Or keep an eye out when I do ink swatches with ink swaps with other people. So there is Colorverse String, Colorverse Kinko Tree, I've been writing with different ink, good ink swatching instruments. So first I had the Kakamori dip nib, and then I got the Sailor Hokuro Fude dip nib. And now I've gotten, at long last, some glass dip nibs. And I definitely plan on doing a comparison video on these because they all have very unique attributes in each respective offering. And I want to give a proper chance to each of them to determine what is my preference and when. All right, next we have Brain, and it has a G on it, which stands for glitter or shimmer. And I wanted to be able to get that ink out before the shimmer settled at the bottom. So, Colorverse, Brain, glitter. Now I want to shake this up again. You can see how quickly this shimmer settles. And all too often I forget to shake the bottle, or I don't shake it in between each step of my swatching. And then I don't get the best read on the color. Birmingham Pen Company Waterfall Dusk. So I've come across quite a few now of the Birmingham Pen Co. inks and am very fond of them. Waterfall Dusk. That is such a beautiful color. They have, in the colors I've seen from Birmingham Ink, they have a really good eye for these color combinations. I think this is gorgeous. And I'm really curious to see it dry because as I see it wet, I love it. It actually reminds me a lot of Hersfeld Press Grape Ice Pop. So that would be an interesting one to compare side by side to see which one is more purple and which one is more earthy or has more of that gray undertone. Lovely. It's picking up a little bit more gray on camera than it is in person, I would say, so far. I'd almost forgotten my Robert Oster Gold Antigua. I would have done this earlier with those lighter, earthier colors to kind of have side by side, but this is okay. We can still compare them in the end side by side. But let's go ahead and throw this in now. Robert Oster Gold and Dequa. A lot of these inks are going to be favorites for me for the autumn, and some of them I already have inked up in a pen. If you've already inked up a lot of your pens with your autumn favorites that you have on hand, whether new favorites or old favorites, share them in the comments below and give us all some more ideas of colors and shades of inks that we can be enjoying for this season. I think a lot of the colors that we're enjoying for this season of inks are kind of reminiscent or inspirations from what's happening all around us in the colors of nature. Here's another with shimmer. This is Monarch Cardana. And this is a really interesting color. It's interesting to me when you get certain shades that are caught right between two color families. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Isn't that just such a blend of red and pink? It's so saturated and so rich. Reminds me of cranberry. All right, this is our last ink swatch for this video. And we're finishing off with a Colorverse Lucky Star 2. I'm not sure why it's 2. If you know, let me know. This is another one with shimmer, so that's why I'm doing the order a little differently. And as a side, the color I last did, that Monarch Cardana, it was kind of clinging to all my instruments, so that's one I would expect would stain. Just as a heads up. Let's see, Lucky Star, was it? Lucky Star. Kind of messed that one up. Sometimes it doesn't work well to be thinking about one thing and writing about another. But we'll get by. So I didn't mix up that shimmer again before doing the perimeter. So I think you'll see that there's hardly any shimmer in that, except in the middle where I did shake it. All right, our inks are dry, so let's take a look at these swatches. Robert Oster Melon Tea. So this turns out like a brown, a kind of medium to light brown with a almost greenish earthy undertone. Really like that. Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Brown. This is coming up a little bit lighter on camera than in person. This leans a little bit more red, but very interesting. Very interesting. It's more red and not as saturated as I would personally like, but I can see why people really like that color. Colorverse String. I really like this. Again, this one is a little bit darker in person, but I've been very much into these kind of mustardy yellows, so I like that vein. Colorverse Kinko Tree. Really like this one again. I think this is an orange that has enough grounding earthy undertones that it doesn't come across like, this is very legible but pleasant. It's not so neon, so I really like that. Colorverse Brain. Again, this green, a little bit lighter. It's actually not neon either, even though it looks a little bit that way on camera. I really like it, especially you can see there the writing's very nice. I probably won't be using this with shimmer. I'll just not shake the bottle. Birmingham Pen Co. Waterfall Dusk. I love this color. And you can actually see there, it picked up a little bit of a green sheen around the high saturated perimeter. It's really pretty. And Robert Oster Gold Antigua. Very pretty too, like that a lot. Lighter and more yellow than String. And then we have Monarch Cardana. It's a very pretty color. It leans more pink than is my preference, but you'll see here too a green sheen as well as a shimmer in the middle of the saturated area. And Colorverse Lucky Star, kind of a grayish black, very pretty, and the shimmer is lovely. I wanted to show you this comparison really quick because I told you it reminded me of Great Ice Pop by Ferris Wheel Press. So the Birmingham Waterfall Dusk is definitely more gray and less saturated than the Ferris Wheel Press Grape Ice Pop, but a cool comparison. The other one, let's see here. Here is the Sailor Moroccan Mint Tea, one of their tea colors from this year. Thought that would be of interest. So Colorverse String is a little bit more orange, and Moroccan Mint Tea is a more saturated yellow, versus Gold Antigua has a little bit more of a golden, almost green undertone, I would say. This is more golden, this is more green. So thank you for joining me on this video about the Detroit Pen Show and ink swatches. I hope you enjoyed it, and feel free to share your thoughts below. I'll see you on the next one. It's all up to you now. Enjoy your pen shows and your ink swatching finds.